Hey folks, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches. Unfortunately, this time around, we do not have Rebirth with us. He had to kind of deal with some stuff that came up last minute, and then I have some stuff going on, and so to ensure that we got an episode of In the Trenches out before Fragadelphia and before some of this Premier League stuff started, we had to just kind of do a two-man show. So it is what it is. I'm Dust, as usual. With me, Tanaka, member of Sedated, former Call of Duty player, all that good stuff. We introduced each other in the last episode, so if you don't know who we are, go watch that episode because it's a really good one. But in this episode, we're going to talk about the recent update that just took place and all the different changes to competitive and such that come with it. And we'll talk a little bit about some esports stuff and rumors and stuff like that. Maybe we'll throw that around. So first of all, Tanaka, how have you been doing? I know that I'm you guys... Great.
It's hot.
It is hot. It's not even that bad for us, too, because at least we have air conditioning in North America. Right. But like all the Europeans are just getting absolutely wrecked right now.
Philadelphia's about to be hot.
Dude, it's rough. Global warming doesn't exist, though, you know. Anyway, we're not going to get political on here. We're not going to do all that. We're just going to talk about video games, right? But we're not even going to get political with video games, because even those are political now for some stupid reason still. Like these many years later, this still comes up somehow. Again, we're going to bypass that topic. I think we're all on the same page on that, so I don't think there's really any need to discuss it. I think we're all pretty unanimous on how dumb it is, how traditional media handles video games. But anyway, now into Battalion. Let's gloss over a few things in this update, right? So now, apparently, a season will last 2 months instead of just 1 month, but there will still be updates every month because it'll be like a mid-season update. So we'll still get a patch every single month, but I guess like the mid-season patch is going to be more like balancing and things of that nature, and then the seasonal updates that happen every 2 months is going to be like the content updates, essentially. So with that, Battlerank now goes up to level 100. And they also released a Gladiator Upgrade thing where you paid some money, you got an exclusive nice skin, even though you can sell it on the market, I think, so it's not really exclusive. You get 10 Gladiator War chests and then a digital soundtrack for Battalion 244. They also added the Gladiator chase for you to purchase, and then they added knives, which I knew this was coming. Like, this was like an obvious thing that was eventually going to happen. Although the game's not really set up for knives yet because, like, you can't inspect it. And you don't pull it out as a weapon. You only just see it very briefly when you actually hit the melee key. But that's something that they're going to add in the future, the ability to inspect knives, stuff like that. So this is...
next update.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Seasonal or mid-season update? I'm not sure. Probably next seasonal update.
I think it's next season.
Yeah. So it'll be a couple of months. Yeah. I mean, here's my thing. Are you opposed to just, like CS, just being able to pull the knife out as like a weapon that you hold?
No. I think if they're actually going to implement skins like this, which is, like you said, a matter of time, it's kind of stupid right now. You're going to have another knife, and like you have to just keep pressing the melee key as if it's, Call of Duty-esque.
Yeah.
Just to see it, And don't get me wrong. I mean, as soon as I bought the SPQR crate or the Gladiator crate or whatever it may be called now, I was doing that instantly just because it's a new knife. It's cool.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see that. So
I don't think it would break the game in any way to just pull it out as a weapon, because otherwise only time you'll see it is if you hit the inspect key, which even then the inspect key only works on the weapon that you're holding in your hand. So yeah, there has to be something there. It really wouldn't change things too much. It's just more animations, more art you have to do, and it obviously takes time. So that's totally understandable. What did you think about them coming out with a like an actual thing to buy to get all this stuff and like support the game? I mean, microtransactions are a thing, so like were you kind of expected this? I thought they would do a battle pass type thing or something, but they chose to go this route instead. So any thoughts on that?
Well, Brammer mentioned it prior, right? He kind of asked the community before 1.0 came out, I think, and was like, would you guys be opposed to this? And I think the large majority was not so much. They're pretty indifferent on it, myself included. But I'm okay with that, even if it's like a new pass every season or every 2 months or however, or every 3 months, whatever it may be, whatever they decide on. If the community is there, which is, it is right now, I think we even stabilized around 2K recently. If the community is there and the content's there and they want to empower themselves by making more money by releasing, I think it was a $7 pass or $10 pass.
Yeah, it was odd how they announced it, though, and it didn't seem to work out right pricing-wise in the market. Maybe they fixed it, but like originally, if you went, it was like a combo pack where you got the game and that, but if you already own the game, then it was a different kind of price. So I think something kind of messed up there, but I think it might be fixed now. And yeah, I think, sure, because if you would buy 10 Gladiator War chests by themselves, you would have paid more money than buying the pass, and then you get the 10 chests if that's something you're interested in, plus you get the knife. So I thought it was fairly priced for what you got. lot, especially compared to like what case prices are and how they've always been. It seemed like a good deal, and like you said, it's just skins. It's not like it gives you a competitive advantage, or it's not like it's a paywall to like real content like a map or a game mode or something like that. I mean, it's just cosmetics. So you're never going to hear me complain about paying extra money for literally only cosmetics and like a soundtrack and stuff like that. So I think, power to them, to further fund the game down the line. If this helps us have better budgets for esports or better budgets for them to hire more people to get things done, then, so be it. Can't really complain about that. Now, the thing is, obviously, because it's 2 months long now, they have Battlerank going up to level 100. And my only concern with this is like, I think people are like doing the math on like how much XP you gain depending on what game mode you play and stuff. And you have to play like an unreal amount of time to max out your battle rank and actually get all the skins. Now, to be fair, at least now you have 2 months to do it. But even still, bro, the amount of experience you get for committing like 45 minutes of time playing a comp match. I mean, people are just farming bots in like Australian and South American servers.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I've done it a little bit just to see how fast you can get XP. It's like, holy shit, you do get a lot of XP farming bots, by the way. But you're basically encouraging people to do things like that because of how grindy it is. And I get you're supposed to earn it, but I think there still could be some tweaking done, is my point, to like XP gained for playing competitive and different things like that, to try to kind of encourage people to not go that route and to actually like play for real. So that's my only like real concern. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think day 2 they had a guy that was level 71 after the new season started, and no one knew how. And it was a big exploit. Everyone was talking about it for a hot minute. But yeah, I think that's going to be an issue going forward. And they've kind of been toying with the economy and the experience gains, economy for lack of better wording, of course. So I think they have a balance. At least they did. I mean, you were averaging 50 to maybe level 70 playing every day or every other day. Whether that be casually or otherwise, and getting those extra crates in the former system. So now that it's doubled, the XP also isn't doubled. It's not really making too much sense. I mean, yeah, there are those individuals that get 100 plus levels within a month time frame, which was the old season system, but those are rare and in between.
You have to play a fuck ton of hours.
Yeah, I play every day, and I guarantee you, I think I maxed out at level 46 last season.
And you stream the game regularly and play a lot.
Practicing.
Yeah, that's unreal. Like you should have been able to easily hit the 50 level cap, the amount that you play. Like you're basically causing people to have to play like an unhealthy amount to like be able to get these things. And so I mean, again, I think you should have to work for it. I think it should be a time investment, just like any other battle passes for any other game type situation. But there needs to be some tweaking there, because otherwise people are just going to... I don't even know if it's necessarily an exploit farming bots. It's not like you're doing anything that is like a cheat, or... like you're not downloading something extra. You're playing the game in an empty server. Yeah, it's definitely not the way the game was intended to be played, for sure. And I definitely do think it sucks, because I've seen some Reddit posts about it, where it definitely does suck if you go into a different region. It's one thing if like you go into a server in Australia or South America as like a European or North American player, and literally everyone in the server is doing the exact same thing. But the moment that like a South American player or Australian player actually comes in, and you can see that they actually have like normal ping, and then you're still trying to do that while they're just trying to play the game, that is fucked. Like, at that point, you're kind of a piece of shit, because you're basically invading another region server, and then those people actually want to play, whatever it is, and then you're fucking them over. So that's when it gets really screwy. Yeah, that's when it gets really screwy. So definitely something to think about going forward. Now we'll get to our next piece, which we're going to talk a little bit more about casual stuff, then we'll get in the competitive side. Basically, the casual piece of this was that they added the new HQ game mode as a limited time game mode. Maybe not limited, though. I think maybe it will just cycle into the arcade after.
Hope so.
But that hasn't happened yet for anything else, right? Because Rifles Only didn't. Casual Wartide's gone. So I don't know if this will actually go into the arcade, or if it will get cycled out, because we already know what the next limited time thing is going to be, which is Invasion. Apparently, is going to be the next limited time game mode. That's supposedly what's going to happen. Is mid-season we'll get the test Invasion as limited time game mode before it gets shuffled in back into the competitive map pool at some point. So yeah, I mean, obviously HQ's fun. Glad to see it. I've enjoyed playing it. What are your thoughts on this being added?
I actually haven't played HQ yet, only because Fragadelphia is right around the corner.
Yeah, sure.
Blitzkrieg League, and we've been putting in tons of work, just dry running, theory crafting, etc. But I mean, 2v2 HQ was what kind of helped keep COD 4 alive all those many years ago, even up to now. I mean, there's still people on my Steam friends that will send me a 2v2 HQ request, at 11 p.m. at night, and it's like, dude, move on, But I think it's a great game mode. I hope they did it right. I don't know yet, so I don't have too much experience on it. And ultimately, when it comes back to that whole game mode conversation, it feels like they just need a better UI designer. It seems like, for that menu system, so that you can go to arcade, and then another menu pops up and just choose what you want to play. But I think people have been, for lack of a better word, they've been bitching about that for a long time now. So.
Apparently they are hiring a new UI artist, already have, and they're already working on that. Something I saw tweeted. Either they already have an artist and they're already working on it, or they're in the process of hiring a UI artist to work on it. So apparently they know it's an issue and it's apparently being addressed. So we'll leave it at that. The only thing I don't like about HQ is right now the score limit's like 1,000 points, or it's like it takes a really long time to play out a legit fully HQ game. That's like maybe the only real thing I've heard criticism about is just how long it takes, but otherwise people seem to like it. But this leads me into just talking about the casual gaming experience in general, and I don't want to rant on this too much because I actually did like a full almost 20-minute long video about this on the YouTube channel, which actually got a lot of traction on the subreddit and got a lot of people talking. I don't know if you saw this video or saw any discussion, but basically the TLDR, if you didn't watch this video, was I put out this video because Sadicus put out a tweet where he listed some stats about like player count for Battalion. He's like, why aren't these people playing Battalion? Basically, it's like his message. Why aren't more people playing this game? It's a great game. And so everyone was kind of throwing in their 2 cents on why they thought the game wasn't growing anymore, or like why the player count fell and all that good stuff. And basically my argument, even though I'm not going to say that I'm like this genius that solved the problem, I know exactly what's wrong, but my thought is that part of the problem is that, for one, competitive is really not set up well right now for new players because they get lobbed into the fire basically right away playing against really experienced players, and so they basically don't have like a good boarding process, either like a casual wartide to learn the game or some type of threshold they must pass before they get thrown into ranked, something like that to kind of help new players not just get thrown in trial by fire. Basically, I thought that was one issue. Then the other issue I mentioned was the casual gaming experience, because right now it's just way too limited in my opinion. Like, you only have a single arcade button, and so you don't get to choose what you get to play. Whenever we do have a really fun limited time game mode, it goes away and it doesn't come back, at least not yet. And then the community server browser is just completely fucked. Like, it just doesn't work. There's no point in it even existing right now. And then it goes back to the whole talk about the whole UI thing that we've already discussed, which is that it's hard to navigate for new people to come in and like figure out where to go. I mean, the arcade button's pretty easy to find, sure, but there's just not enough game modes available, and the community server browser is just so messed up. And so I think that causes a lot of people to be turned away from the game, because it's like the only thing that's fully fleshed out in this game right now is competitive, in my opinion. Nothing else feels like full release about this game other than the competitive mode, and even that has its issues, right? And so that was my whole argument, and I went into more detail in that video, and I don't want to do that now because it took me 20 minutes to do that. So go watch the video if you want to. Now, since then, before I let you give your opinion, Bramer actually did come out and respond to that video, just to give you his take from the developer side. And essentially, he kind of agreed that it was a problem, but he felt the bigger issue was that there wasn't a better onboarding process for new players, meaning that he feels that they need to have like more tutorial content in the game itself when it comes to teaching people about the game and how it works. Maybe even have like a strafe jumping tutorial built into the game to help people understand movement better. He mentioned a couple of different things like that. But then, my kind of argument to that was just like, well, isn't casual wartide the whole point of keeping that, to give people a tutorial to learn the game? So that's a little bit of a weird situation there. But obviously what he brought up, which is something I also addressed in the video, was that he thought splitting up the limited player count into all these different areas would really fuck the game because of like queue times and, empty servers if it was like an unpopular game mode, and that would cause more problems that it would fix. And I did mention this in my video that this is a big catch-22, where is it like a build it and they will come situation, or are you in a spot right now where because you don't have all these options, then people just feel that there's not enough content, so either they don't want to get the game because they don't feel there's enough content there, or they bought the game and don't want to play it anymore because, again, there's not enough content there? Or is it really a situation where, if you add all the options to, solve that problem, that you really are going to split up the player base even more and cause a bunch of other issues that we, would have like a hard time dealing with? So that's kind of where it all sits right now. I'm still leaning in the direction that I think that we need more game modes available and that we need a working community server browser and that we need more content there for people, and we need some changes to competitive to facilitate new players better. But I'm not sure where this is going to go. What's kind of been your whole take on the whole situation?
I mean, every game's success, it's always different, right? There's always an algorithm of some sort that propels a game forward into the spotlight, whether it be Fork Knife with their multitude of streamers, or Apex now, hitting the ground running with their battle royales. Each one's different, There's no real way to say what is going to throw Battalion into that spotlight, I think. There's no algorithm we can just nail down. I think ultimately what every player, myself included, is going to come back to a game for is it exciting, is it fun, and does it reward me for playing? So as long as I have A, something to work for, B, players to play against, and I think C, ultimately a competitive scene to eventually get into, if I was a new player, for example, that's what's going to propel Battalion forward. Now, when it comes to these game modes, the casual game modes, they're gonna kind of be I think a medium or like a middle ground rather than an entry. I think ultimately, going back to what you said, the tutorials, gamers these days, especially the younger kids, they love to have their handheld going into these games. And Battalion is very unforgiving when they play against, some of these higher up players, for lack of better wording. So I think that middle ground with, HQ, capture flag, TDM, whatever it may be, and, easily accessible right there on the menu, I think that's going to be the ultimate algorithm to put it together and say, hey, this is a healthy competitive community because we have these tutorials and this middle ground of casual game modes to play when you're not competing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with Brammer that tutorial content would help. I mean, almost every game that you play, like even when like Apex Legends first came out, you actually had to go to like a firing range and like move around and stuff like that before you like actually jumped in and started playing. And so something like that in Battalion would be great. To introduce the concept of the weapons and introduce the economy system maybe for Wartide and how things work. The only thing I would say is I don't know how you could ever build a tutorial advanced enough to teach someone in-game how to strafe jump properly. I feel like that would be really challenging. There's obviously... Yeah, I mean, there's like video tutorials on YouTube channels out there you can try to look up, and you could probably learn it that way, but they want stuff that's in the game, right? Something you don't have to go search for. And so I'd be curious to see how they came up with like an actual in-game tutorial for that. Maybe they will figure something out, and so I think if they can figure something out that works, then great. Yeah, I agree that would help the game. He did also mention something about adding like an aimbots type thing in the game to like give people a way to warm up before they play, which is like kind of one of the big things I was talking about by having a working community server browser is to have that ability to go deathmatch or whatever to warm up. And I think they are trying to work on a solution for that, like an aimbots type thing. Or, I mean, if we could just get like custom maps made for that, then this is something you could just download off the Steam Workshop and open up an offline server and do it yourself. So there's already, I think, one out there.
Hazard made one, yes.
Yeah, so... It doesn't work that great, but it's something. So yeah, more of that's going to come in as well. But yeah, maybe I'm just hung up on my own opinion because obviously I'm going to be biased towards myself in my opinion. But I do feel like there needs to at least be, like you said, some type of middle ground where maybe we can't go gung-ho and have like CTF domination, team deathmatch, HQ, all these different game modes to choose from right now because of the limited player base. But we need more than just a single arcade button, in my opinion. Like it's just not enough. And then the community server browser has to work and be accurate. Like at bare minimum, I think those two things have to happen to give, again, more reason to play if you're not into the competitive side. Because, dude, I have friends like that. Even like fellow caster buddies of mine don't really have much interest playing competitive, but they do like Battalion and they do like playing the casual side. They do like just running around playing CTF or running around and playing TDM. They want something that just kind of kills some time that they don't have to really invest into or deal with ranked or deal with being locked in for like 40 minutes to play a whole match. Like they want something just to dick around on. And so, yeah, I mean, that's anecdotal, obviously. I don't know the stats behind that, but yeah, I do hope that the casual gaming experience can be fleshed out because I'll say this, dude, it's actually been kind of annoying that it's always lagged behind competitive all the way through. It's never really been emphasized. Hell, it didn't even work at all when like, beta first came out, like MU1 and stuff. It didn't even work at all. It didn't even exist. So it needs some love. And I think that, and I'm not saying that's going to like make the player count double or grow over 9 or anything like that, but at least there's content there now for people, when they do find the game. And yeah, I think, Brammer's also right in saying that obviously we couldn't expect it to stay, at the peak it was at when the game first released. Of course, it's going to die down a little bit and then ramp back up. And, Rainbow Six Siege is a perfect success story where it started off really low. Similar numbers to what we have, actually. And then over the course of like 3 years, it grew into a game that now has like, 75,000 average players a month or something like that.
Slowly. It took a lot of work.
Exactly. So this game can have something similar to that, I think. I don't know if it'll ever be as big as Rainbow Six Siege, but I think it definitely could get much bigger than it is now. But part of that is going to be maybe more casual stuff, but part of it's also just going to be how they do patches going forward, how they market the game, how they onboard new players, how they find ways to retain those players. That's not my forte, so we'll see where it comes up with. But now we're getting to the competitive stuff that, we all think about a lot. So the first thing was, and we knew this was coming, they took out Invasion, Dox, and Savoya. Those 3 maps are gone for now. We know for sure that Brammer is actively working on Invasion. He's been streaming it. So there's been a lot of that content going around. Don't want to talk about it too much because I don't know if it's even final what he's doing or if things will change. Obviously, they probably will. But he did kind of make some key changes that he seems pretty, stuck on, which is they added a new route into the A site from middle through that stairwell that used to be there, like in the center of the site. He changed up how orange works. They took one of the beach routes away, and then B just got completely reformed, basically.
Right.
So, and that's apparently a testable version of Invasion will be out in the mid-season update like a month from now, basically, or a few weeks from now. As far as Dox and Savoya, no information on that yet. But, was this the right move? And do you like what you're seeing with Invasion so far?
I mean, I've seen so many map changes since the original release and, Alpha playing it off and on. It's like, how many more times are they going to do it, really? But that's me being jaded. So, take that with a grain of salt. And it's also the fact that, the team Sedated put in so much time doing executes, practice, angles, whatever it may be, that it's just like, man, we got to do it all over again. Damn, So, but with that being said, I will say that, every map can be refined, reformed, if you will, even, depending on who you're. I mean, shoot, CSGO has Cash coming out soon, right? At ESL New York.
Yep.
So, little things like that it's great. It's great for the health, but I think it was kind of redundant to add Dox at 1.0 release and then immediately remove it. I mean, sure, it needed some tweaking, but I didn't think it needed to be removed. And maybe it was, to go back on what you brought up before, where we needed a odd number map pool. But I mean, we have the first major 1.0 land coming up with Fragadelphia, and we have 5 maps now, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with
I'm
that.
curious. Did Fragadelphia announce if they are going to do a 5-map pool?
5 maps, to my knowledge. That's the information that's.
Because I remember I asked, can't remember who I was that asked, and they had no idea, and they were actually kind of annoyed that they hadn't got information yet about it. So it seemed like there was. No, it wasn't even your team. It was like a completely different team. I can't remember who it was I was talking to. It might even have been like a Euro guy that's on that mixed team. I can't remember who it was. That they were confused on like what the rule set was going to be. So
yeah, we were taken by surprise on that, in all honesty, because the land's not even 2 weeks away when that the map removals got made. So I mean, you have it starts on the 17th, I believe Fragadelphia is, and the changes came on the 1st. So I mean, shoot, just a little over 2 weeks, and we gotta take all the strats that we made for those 3 maps and throw them out the window. But, I digress. It's fine. I understand why. I think everyone does. No one's really going to complain about it that much.
I think the only complaint was, I think most people didn't really like Dox and Savoya anyway, so I don't think they were like too emotionally tied to those 2 maps. They weren't getting played a lot either. I'm sure, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I'm pretty sure when they looked at the data, they probably realized these maps aren't getting played at all. So apparently there's an issue.
For sure. And I think the Invasion rework was coming in no matter what. A long time coming.
Yeah. And I mean, I like what Brammer's doing so far with Invasion. I think it's definitely shaping up to be better. I think it's going to be better in the long run. As far as Dox goes, I think minor tweaks will make that map better, mostly just on the B side of the map, which we already talked about that last episode. Then Savoya, that was the shitstorm, so I don't know what you do about that one. So we'll see.
It was fine. It was fine.
It wasn't fine. Anyway, so there you go. We're going to gloss over a couple of these other changes now because I think we're just both going to unanimously say, this is great, and then move on. So first one, they added timeouts. This is great.
Love it.
Move on. All right. Fix the M1 Carbine iron sight issue thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that, actually. That's huge.
It's great.
Actually. Yeah, great. Move on.
Yeah, there's really nothing to talk. Let's skip through those really fast. Now we are going to talk about this one a little bit more. This is a bigger change. SMG range nerf, pretty much across the board for the Thompson MP40, and then also the starting out, like SMGs or whatever, in the aftermath of that also got their range nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen a couple of people really complain about this. I think most people understand this change and pretty much agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now that the bar and Thompson were the same price. It's like, we'll talk about that in a second because we're gonna tie the bar in a minute. That's a weird one. But anyway, just by itself, forgetting like other weapons for a minute, do you think this SMG range nerf was, a good change? Do you think it was necessary? Do you think there's an issue with it?
Well, you ask a scope player or a rifler, they'll tell you it's great. Obviously, and this is what I've noticed so far in the North American community, myself included. I think it's great. SMGs are much more situational based now. You can't go in a barn and kill somebody all the way down mid on Manor House, with an SMG as you could before. You ask an SMG player, they hate it for the most part. In fact, I've seen North American teams coming out right now only buying bars, and they just skip the Thompson altogether.
Yep.
Which kind of goes back into that thing where we need to talk about the bar.
There was a couple of European SMG players that seemed okay with it. Like Rebirth was one of them, I think. I know he uses
I think the SMG is still great.
Fun,
I mean, I've seen Frozone as an example get 3-4Ks consistently on Vanguard with, the MP40. It's like, it's not that big of a deal, but most SMG players are just, they think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it was kind of BS that you could do so much damage from far away with an SMG when that's not what an SMG is supposed to be meant for.
Right.
So by itself in isolation, I think an SMG nerf at range made a lot of sense. But the problem is, now I'll talk about the bar. The bar is now 3 coins. On the one hand, I love the bar at 3 coins because I think it makes sense to have an assault rifle slightly cheaper on the attacking side than the defensive side.
Yep.
This is like a CSGO philosophy concept for me, I guess. The M4 is more expensive than the AK-47. The bar has, I think it's been like the, award-winning story of Battalion, like how much this gun has gotten better over time when it comes to the iron sight, when it comes to animation, when it comes to like movement with it. Now it at 3 coins, compared to the 4 coin STG. I love that in isolation. Like I really, really love this. But the thing is now is like you said, why the fuck would I ever buy a Thompson now over a bar?
Yeah, that's Sedated's mentality right now. It's you might as well just spend that extra, or actually, see, look.
Yeah, you might as well not do anything. You might as well buy that bar. Don't even think about it.
Buy a bar and get a smoke. You know? And that's how it is now. And it seems really redundant because obviously the devs are thinking, hey, with that, the SMGs, you still have that movement bonus, right?
Yes.
But I mean,
that is true. I was being a little bit,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like teams are still saying, fuck the movement. It's like we'll just take that extra coin and get a bar with 10 more shots or whatever it may be, and with more damage and one-shot headshot capability, regardless of range.
Yeah.
It just seems redundant, really.
Yeah, so. I would agree. I think that, obviously there is still some advantages of an SMG over the bar, just like you said, movement speed, ADS speed, things like that. All fine and dandy, but there needs to be something else there if they're going to be the same price, in my opinion.
Right.
So either it's going to have to be, hip fire accuracy buff on SMG or, hip fire nerf on bar or a further difference in movement speed than what already exists, or I don't know, something's going to have to happen there to justify them being the same price.
Right.
Because otherwise
Totally agree.
you're just going to buy the bar every single time. So
absolutely.
I like the bar at 3 coins. I think the SMG at 3 coins is fine as well. If you want to price them the same, though, you just have to figure out a way to... It's also going to be weird that they're going to be the same price on one side, but then a coin apart on the other side.
Yeah.
That's also a bit weird. Yeah. Sure.
Still, it still doesn't change the fact that there's an obviously better weapon that's the same coin price.
The only thing you could do is make the SMG 2 coins, but then I think that would be a little bit too crazy because it'd be so easy to afford.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be different if everything was scaled differently, but I don't know how you would do that now. It basically would mean that you'd have to put the bar back at 4 coins and then the SMG stays 3 coins, but then the bar and the Garand would be the same price now, and then you'd have to choose between an automatic weapon or a Garand, which maybe that's not too bad.
Having the semi-automatic rifle with the Garand,
same
I
price.
I thought that at 3 coin was fine. I mean, I understand we need to scale the weapons, but you made the bar so damn good. It's it's with its current stats, no one thinks it's a 3 coin weapon. So of course they're gonna buy it and abuse it regardless of movement penalty.
It's I don't know how they figure this one out. There's so many different routes you could go. You could go SMG2 coin for attack, but that would probably be like way too bad. Like it would just be way too affordable. Right. Or you would have to again like do something with like hip fire accuracy or movement speed again, either nerfing the bar or buffing the SMG in those regards. Yep. Or you'd have to again reprice everything, and maybe you do make the bar and the Garand the same price, and then you just have to choose whether you want a semi-auto, weapon that kills a little bit faster with less hits, or a bar that has like a higher technical DPS because of the firing rate, or I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know how you solve that problem. But let's talk about the Garand a little bit, because basically in the midst of all this, the Garand got a speed buff on fire rate, but it went back to 4 coins, and the obvious reason for that was because they wanted the bar to be at 3 coins, so you basically swapped them again. They've been doing a little bit of back and forth with this to try to get it right, but to justify the Garand now being back at 4 coins, they gave a fire rate buff. Now, this drives me fucking insane, because I swear all I ever heard through beta, through early access, was the Garand's not powerful enough because the Axis have a Car 98, and it's a one-shot weapon. The Garand feels really weak compared to the Car 98, so we need to do something to help out the Garand. It had like a reload speed buff at one point. It was then price buffed at one point, which was like, the full release. Now this update, they went back to 4 coins, but they compensated by doing a firing speed buff. So the only reason why the devs did this, by the way, was because there seemed to be a pretty big voice in favor of somehow helping the Garand out, whether it was price, whether it was fire rate, whether it was whatever else, some way to help it compete with the Car 98, basically, or what have you. Well, now that it's gotten that, everyone's now said, oh, the Garand's like way too powerful now. So it's just like, bro, I don't know what you guys want at this point.
Right. And I think that comes down to largely you're never going to appease a community in entirety, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to be, no one is going to come together as a whole and just say, this is great, great time. And that goes right back to the SMGs and as well. I thought the Garand was fine before.
Yeah, I did too. I liked the Garand at 4 coins before they did the fire speed increase. I thought it was fine. Yeah. But everyone seemed not to like it. Everyone thought that it was missing something, whether it was firing speed or price or whatever.
And those were almost all early access players where they could grab it and they could keep spamming it, quick reload, spam it, quick reload. Like just aim, It's like, it's fine, just aim better, That's the real issue, is that players are always going to complain and they're always going to moan and they're always going to be the loudest, minority inside the community because they're not hitting their shots, and that kind of comes back to that. But that's neither here nor there. We can talk about.
So what do you think? No. So what do you think about it right now? Do you think it is overpowered, like a lot of people are saying right now?
No, not at all. Especially if the other side has a Car 98. Obviously that's a 3 coin compared to a 6 coin difference.
No. The Garand's now 4 coins.
4 coins. See, yeah. I'm so out of the loop in regards to.
It's a 2 coin difference right now.
Yeah, right. It's a 2 coin difference, right? And that's 1 shot compared to 2 shots. And that's not that big of a deal. And I think attackers having a 2-shot weapon at all is a godsend, And ultimately, my opinion on it is stop bitching and just hit your shot. I think it's fine.
I think either you can just leave it as is and let people bitch, or maybe you do find a middle ground on firing speed. Maybe you do nerf it back, maybe not to original speed, but maybe you find like an in-between point. But again, I wouldn't mind the Garand just going back to the firing speed it was during full release and at 4 coins. Yeah. I think it's fine. Like,
as do I.
If that would satisfy people and like be like a compromise where everyone can get on board with the Garand at 4 coins and get on board with its firing speed and stuff, then have at it if you need to tweak it a little bit more. But it's just weird how the Garand has developed because of community feedback, and then how everyone kind of changes their tune after it gets buffed. I'm not saying that it's like actually the same people, but it seemed like all I ever heard was the Garand needs a buff, and then it got buffed, and now it was like Grand's OP, and it's just like, I don't know. This is one of those situations where like I sympathize with the devs. I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm against you all the way on this whole like casual gaming experience argument. But when it comes to the Garand, it's just like, fuck yeah, dude, I don't know what you do, man. Like that's a tough one. Like I get where people are coming from. Yeah, I get where people are coming from. I get why there is criticism against the Garand buff, but at the same time, I'm not really sure how to handle the whole situation. Anyway.
Right.
So that's basically all the weapon stuff. Though they did change max tokens to 14 from 12. What's your thoughts on this? How has this impacted
things? I think that's
things?
great. And I think in the patch notes even said, now scopes can buy a nade and a smoke, full loadout, full buy, if you will. without having to worry. Well, in that regard, I can promise you we're still not going to do that because we can still have more, coins for next round if the round goes awry. But I think it's great, honestly. It allows for the team also to have a support player. Like we on today to have a support player who generally won't buy a weapon and will give coins out if needed. That, 2 other people could have rifles, STGs, or bars now, or I can have a scope instead of that person having an SMG and a nade. They can just keep their carbine or their Gewehr, and we can get more powerful weapons. So I think that's great in that regard. It allows a banker role essentially.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me ask you a question. How would you feel if they did a restriction on being able to share coins on round 1? Because, there's like meme shit where like you'll donate all your coins to one person, they get like a fucking STG round 1 or something like that, or whatever the case may be. On one hand, it's a viable strategy to do that, and it allows creativity, like on how you want to sacrifice people on round 1 to get one person like a really powerful weapon. But on the other hand, you also basically kill the concept of a pistol round because it really isn't one, because people can just donate money to each other and basically forego having a pistol round. Kind of curious if we should keep everyone on the equal playing field in round 1 and then let it go from there, or if this is just like a random thought I had, by the way. Like I'm not sold on that at all. I'm just kind of curious, like what you think about that whole concept.
Well, my response is twofold. Is that one, creativity is a good thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
Never try to remove that whatsoever. And I think Bulkhead, in my opinion, that's what they've been aiming for. Like they said back in development, years ago now, they wanted that whole economy system that CS had because it brought excitement to commentating it and casting and so on and so forth. So I think that creativity is nuts. When we have a caster that sees that, hey, a team is going for an STG buy first round and everyone else on MP28s, that's crazy. And I think it's a good thing, and it's a big gamble. And I think gambling should never be removed in that regard because it allows for big plays and, big headlines ultimately. And then finally, it's just like that's never going to happen in good teams. I have yet to see a good team do that. I've seen people do that in pugs. But, I don't want to challenge a carbine player that knows how to aim their carbine, which is almost every good player in Premier League right now, and I would assume if I had STG. I don't want to do that. That's too big of a risk. If I'm solo on a site somewhere and I challenge 3 carbines, I'm going to lose. It's like just how it is. So, yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah, cool. That was just like a random thought, by the way. So
Absolutely.
don't take me seriously on that. I just wanted to generate a little bit of discussion.
No, you should. That's
anyway,
a good idea, honestly.
Next thing we'll talk about is the health feedback that was overhauled with like blood visuals and new sound cues and health regen functionality. So basically, I'll just read the note really quick. Now, when taking over 70 damage, a player will enter a critical status where they have like the blood effects and stuff, and they will not regenerate any health at all for 5 seconds. And then after that period is over, they will regenerate back to 100% health in just a second. And then they will also have like a relaxed breath sound cue when they have fully regenerated. I'll just say this. I think it's dumb you just can't see your own health bar.
Right.
When teammates can spec you and tell you exactly what health you're at, but you can't see it yourself, I don't get it. Like, is it really, though? Like, you're
No.
So, I think the change is fine, but, I guess it's like the only argument for not having a health bar is because COD didn't have it. Is that really it?
That may be it. I don't know.
It doesn't seem like there's a legitimate reason why we shouldn't just have health bars that we can see.
That may be it. As far as regen in general, though, I think it's fine.
No, the change is good in my opinion.
Yeah, it's taking a little bit to get used to, and I really don't understand why they made the change, but it allows for people keeping their head down when they get tagged up while still getting them back in the fight quick. So I understand the flow of the rounds has sped up significantly while still adding that benefit of tagging people. So I understand, but yeah, going back to the whole COD thing.
What was it before, by the way? Like, I don't even remember the values before this.
It was I couldn't tell you the number values.
Like, how long did it take to regen before? Because now it's like 5 seconds and then 1 second. So like 6 seconds.
3 or 4 before you start regenerating, and then when you were halfway regened, you regened quicker at 2 times the rate.
Okay.
It felt like, at least.
Because effectively now it takes 6 seconds to regen if you take over 70 damage. Now, if you haven't taken 70 damage yet, I don't know what the speed is. I guess it's still the original values, but I don't even know what those are. Wish they would have kind of broken that down a little bit better, because I actually have no idea what it is or what it was before.
It seems much quicker now. really.
Yeah,
You know,
so.
you're spectating your teammate get tagged up, and you're like, hey, you're 1 health, and you're good. All right, go ahead. You know,
The thing is, you could avoid all these animations and sounds if you just had a health bar.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. Again, every like old school COD person will hate me for saying that and be like, "You just want it to be like Counter-Strike." And it's like, not really. If I wanted to be Counter-Strike, I'd go pluck and play Counter-Strike.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're already ripping like the game mode and an economy system and all that. So like, are you really gonna complain when like I make CS comparisons? Like, I'll never get that, but whatever.
You shouldn't.
It's fine. Other than that, we have a couple other quick ones that I think we're just going to, again, kind of like we did before, to say, oh, this is great, and then move on. They fixed the fog smoke bug. Great.
Awesome.
Yeah. No complaints here. That's great.
Nope.
They also fixed like that whole STG shot skip thing that Rebirth was talking about last episode.
Yep.
And they fixed up some other animations and sound stuff and whatever as well. Again, those like bug fixes and stuff is always just gonna be like great, you know, like glad to see it. Glad they actually addressed a fuck ton of different like little bugs and animation issues and things that it felt like a lot of things we talked about last episode wound up getting addressed pretty much. Like almost everything we talked about last episode got addressed. So that's pretty quick turnaround time, to be honest. I think some people complain that updates don't happen fast enough, but man, coming from the CS side, bruh, this is way better. Are you serious?
You're spoiled, guys.
Yeah,
honestly,
we really are. Like CS barely ever gets updates, and when we do, it's like the most minuscule shit. Yeah,
you know?
dude.
Like,
granted, CS is at a place now where it doesn't really need a lot of tweaking, so they don't really need to be updating the game a lot. But there have been periods where like it's just like, holy fuck, this gun's been broke for so long. Like the CZ, Tech 9, so many different guns in CS were broke for months and months and months and months. So if you're mad that a gun was broke for a month during a time period where the game wasn't even really seriously competitive yet, you need to calm on down. Like, it's really not that bad. I agree the shotgun definitely did rain for a really long time and it was annoying. But like in reality, it happened during like a competitive lull time. I mean, there were some small tournaments going on, but it wasn't. Even. Yeah. Right. So it really didn't do that much damage in the grand scheme of things, other than like your ELO for like competitive on Face It, which I mean, I guess some people take that really, really seriously, and so it's annoying. But like in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't really that bad. And I do agree. Look, if it's something like, put it this way, if they would have been able to fix this fog smoke bug like before this update, like 2 weeks ago, then yeah, it's like a hot fix you just deploy, right? But I don't.
Maps.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
but I don't mind the month schedule overall. I think that's fine. Any thoughts on that, or do you pretty much disagree?
No. I think schedule is good in all types. So let's just keep rolling with it.
All right, now we can talk about esports for a little bit. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Dude, we haven't talked about esports barely at all, like in the trenches period, because there just hasn't really been much. I mean, there's like the Blitzkrieg battle. There's the quick cups, but quick cups I can't even really talk about them because you can't find results anywhere.
Because they're quick. They're so quick.
They're quick, and good luck trying to find those results if you didn't watch it or cast it. There's literally no database out there. Everyone in the Battalion community rally together, update the Wikipedia for Battalion 1944. Someone, group of people, please. Just update it, please. If people can start working on player profile pages on the Wikipedia, that would be great as well. If you want something to do or you want to support the community, get on Wikipedia. Just go fucking hard. Or, I know there's like that myb44.com or whatever.
Yep.
Just need to get that in a better state. And more people need to get on board with that. And for the love of God, let's just have one site. Like, we need rhltv.org is what we need in a battalion, right?
Absolutely.
HLTV
on the way.
It could be, but there just needs to be more features on there, like tournaments, stats, you know, roster transactions. Like I know it would be really hard to do, and there's really no. It would be a passion project to do it at this point because there's like literally no monetary gain to work that hard on it. And I'm sure that some of those guys are, you know, just volunteering out of passion and they are trying. But yeah, now that we're going to start seeing like tournaments start popping up, like these Premier Leagues, like some other shit that's rumored to be right around the corner, Fragadelphia, different things like that. For everyone's sake, like it will be better for viewers, it would be better for casters, it would be better if we just had more of that system in place. So just wanted to throw that out there at the very beginning. We talked about that last episode, but reemphasize it really quick. But we did have the Blitzkrieg Battle Finals pop off. On the European side of things, did you follow this at all? Like, do you watch the European side?
No, okay. I really didn't have a chance to.
I'll throw this really quick. Yeah. Basically, the 4 teams that made the finals were exactly the teams you would expect that would. As far as who won it, I mean, Entropy won, which I think like some people will know some of these players like Fi and QWERTY and even Kiastar and a couple of other guys. People will know these guys. I think everyone expected Endpoint to win because like they had been winning a lot of stuff. They did have a roster change right before this, like Kazja left, or I don't know if he left or got kicked. I don't want to ever like discuss that because I have no idea. But they picked up like another Finnish player, Fake, because they had like Repl and Cinda who are of course Finnish. They kept Reflexer, they kept Mark, and so they brought in like a new player. So I don't know if that impacted things or whatever. But you know they wound up actually just like getting knocked out in their first game of the playoffs. So Entropy winds up winning. Grandpa Gaming, mostly Method, that placed top 4 at the last major. It's like Toxia, Rebirth, and Canaller. Same guys and Souls, and then they picked up Kazja, actually, who was on Endpoint. And they had been like having a couple different fist play with them. They wound up making second place. And then that No Kids Gaming team, which has like Deleter, Zuma, and Zoltan, which I think they all played for... They placed top 8 at the major. I can't remember what team it was under. If it was like Demise or... No, it wasn't Demise. Shit.
It's been a minute since then.
Avenue, maybe? Because Avenue now is like all the other guys, like the Czech guys, like Jackus and Adamello and all those guys. Anyway, point is that teams you kind of expected to make the finals did make the finals, and then Entropy wound up winning it. Grandpa Gaming came second, which is no surprise. They were doing pretty well in all the online tournaments. Endpoint, we expected them to win, but at least they placed top 4, so it was fine. On North American side, Enix won. Shocker. Just
no shocker.
The absolute shock. I mean, they've been basically winning every online tournament that they've played in. So no surprise there. What was a little bit surprising was well, never mind. Like Sage had to play Enix in the semis, so and that was actually a 3-mapper, so that was actually a really good series.
Yeah.
And then Jester and Westers beat Outliers, and then they wound up just tanking in the finals, dude. I casted those finals. It was bad. It was real bad. What was also shitty about it was like each team had to use like a stand-in at a certain point. Like the first map, dude, this was a fucking clown fiesta, bro. I couldn't believe this shit. Like, here's what happened. This is how fucked these finals were. Like, no offense to the plays or like the teams or anything, but it's like a commentator coming from the CS world. I was just like, what in the fuck is happening? So, Enix used their full lineup against Sage, won the series in 3 maps. Right, great series. Sage and Enix, really really good games. And then Sage is another one of the teams that played pretty well, so, you know, expected them to make the finals, and they put up a good fight here. Cool. So then they obviously had to break for a couple of hours because the other semi had to go off between Jester and Westers and Outliers, right? So in that period, apparently Vic went to sleep. Like he took a nap or some shit. Because he's old.
Wake up?
He's old. Yeah, the man didn't wake up. He didn't wake up. Right. So he missed the first map of the grand finals. Enix wound up using Neo from Sentinels as a stand-in.
That's so weird.
And they blasted ass in that map anyway. Like, it didn't matter. It was like 13-3 on Manor V2 or something like that. Some just like wrecking ball with Neo standing in. And Neo was fragging hard as a stand-in. Then Vic returns for the second map of the grand finals. But then, also in all of that, Jester and Westers had to make a substitution for map 2. They had a different 5th. I can't remember who left and who came in. But it's like, you're subbing people in mid best of 3. That's crazy, bro. Yeah, that's crazy, man. It was just wild, dude. Like, it just seemed like a really weird conclusion to, like, Blitzkrieg battles. To have all these, like, roster issues taking place, like, in the middle of the playoffs. And you can just tell Justin Westers did not give a fuck anymore. Like in the finals, like they didn't even. It's like they didn't even want to be there. I'm not saying that they like threw or like didn't try, but like you could just kind of tell, and even talk on the ritual afterwards, that everyone was just kind of like, eh. And it's just like, this is what you've been building up to though for like weeks. So like it was really weird.
I think Jester Westers isn't even going to Fragadelphia. The word on the street is that they are trying to play Apex. So I don't know what that entire situation is.
Well, Ritual is a legit like pro Fortnite player for Rise Nation and is like a salaried player for that organization. So he is kind of just dabbling in Battalion for fun. What I had heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, I had heard that like Ritual and 2 of the other players were going to go, but they needed to because like Nicholas TJO and someone else wasn't going to go. That's what I had heard. Now, I don't know how things have changed since. That was like a couple of weeks ago that I heard that.
We asked them when we screamed them. They said there's 3 of them that weren't going.
So now it's 3. It was 2 not going, and now it's 3 not going.
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah.
Because I think Will asked them when we were screaming them. But that's it.
And of course, it's a meme that like Nicholas Shija is not going. Of course, like
yeah, of course.
The memes. This memes. Just
Yeah.
memes. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not going to comment too much on that. It is what it is.
Strikes again.
And to be fair, Blitzkrieg Battle was kind of just like a warm up for what's to come with Premier League and everything.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so I mean, it's good to see that people were playing and were trying, and it's obviously all these teams are cool. It sucked that Stadium wasn't in there. Obviously, I'm sure you know that.
We're not good enough. We're not.
Yeah,
good enough.
you just got wrecked. But anyway, that's that. So that's that. We will talk about Premier League just a little bit. Mostly, we'll just talk about like the invites. European side, literally no surprises on who got invited. Like the 4 teams that made the top 4 Blitzkrieg battles made it, and many of those players have been around since early access and have placed well at the major and done well in all the European stuff. So no surprises there. Avenue, who wasn't Blitzkrieg Battle Finals, made it, but again, that's like the team from Czech Republic that has like Jackus and Adamello and all that. So no surprise there that they made it. Team Tilt has like Fancy Sus and Samuel G, which is like, I don't know if that's still their lineup. That's what's listed on the Wikipedia. So that's a roster I recognize. Wapando is a team that was doing pretty well in the Blitzkrieg battles. They had some of the Demise players like Blues and Dens and stuff like that. So they made it. There's a team that has like Aslan with J Money, Saint, and Icons that has a team in there. Again, players we're all familiar with. Demka has a French team in it. Moose, the Swedish team that has like Klamaxu and Lincoln are in. And so, yeah, basically all the people that you think should be in the league on the European side are in the league. So it should be really cool watching the European side. A lot of good players in that. A lot of recognizable names from CODs, from early access. It's really well built over there. North American side, there was some drama here whenever the first 8 teams got announced. And I think I kind of understand it to a degree. But also, I think NA is very challenging because rosters have just been all over the fucking place for the most part, except for like a couple of teams that have been pretty stable. So of the 8 teams that got directly invited initially, it was basically Enix, which no-brainer. Kovac Boys, which now is Vatic. No, that was a no-brainer as well. Then there was Sage, no-brainer. Your Team Sedated, no-brainer. And then Sentinel, which was also pretty much a no-brainer. And then I'm trying to remember who the other team was from the initial 5. Or like the initial 6. Can't remember. There's another team that was like understandable. I think it was Czech 6 that also got an invite around that time. So
I believe so.
So all those players made perfect sense. Now, there were a couple of teams that were like the RBL Esports team and then Rectify, which was Pug Stars. Some people I think were a little bit amiss by that. Although I know like Trump and a couple of those guys that are in RBL did do decently in a couple of online cups. I remember casting. The Pug Stars, though, I know they played that show match against you guys on Middlebow. Correct. I remember from that, but I don't think they placed well in any of the online cups.
I actually don't really know, to be 100% honest.
I don't know all the. Go on.
The one thing I do know about him is that, and I spoke up on Twitter when all this drama shit was popping off, that any team that's actively attempting to get better and attempting to take part in the higher level battalion scene, because they were scrimming all of us. They were scrimming, Enix, Sage, us, Sedated. They were scrimming everyone. They were trying to get better, and they were making roster changes and org changes. I know they started out as.
They're on Rectify now, yeah.
Yeah. Just. They were
Pug Stars. They were Taunt. Yeah.
And then now they're actually on Org Rectify, which is apparently a relatively medium-sized esports org in multiple games of some sort. But I mean, the fact of the matter that it comes down to is that they are good players that have the ability to be great players by continuing to train, and they're continuing to put in hours, and they're doing, they're adding players, they're removing players, they're being the battalion community, which I did not see any team that puts an effort and time with that. I don't see how that's a negative. And as long as they can compete with us, they're fine. Or they'll get relegated. It'll work itself out. One of the two is going to happen. I don't know why people wanted to get upset.
I mean, here's my thing. I think that if you very clearly notice that there's a difference in the player count in Europe versus NA, and there's a clear difference in the amount of formed teams between Europe and NA. And this is what happens in Counter-Strike as well for EPL on spots that get awarded for playoffs based on the regular season. Europe always has more than NA because the player base is bigger and there's more teams in Europe. Something like that probably should have happened here, where the EU League probably should have been the 12 teams invited, and that's fine. And then NA probably
the major.
Yeah, and then NA probably should have been 8 teams instead of 12. Or there probably should have been more qualifier spots awarded. Because to be honest, in NA, I mean, I don't know all the teams through and through, but it is pretty true that like your team, Enix, Vatic, Sage, Sentinels, Check 6, and like maybe one or two other teams have like fairly consistent rosters. But everything else has been like really a mixed bag. And I do think if you were trying to do like a 12-team invite league, there really wasn't like 12 fully formed teams, to be honest, as far as like stable rosters go. So I think they did have two qualifier spots, I think, that they gave out.
It came down to 2 because I think Jester and Westers gave up theirs.
Yeah, so there were 2 spots, and there was 2 teams, Exposed and Paradox, that wound up qualifying. The other teams that getting invited were like outliers, which are definitely some recognizable names on there, like Uzi, Aryan Christ, Dirty German, Plasma, Style. Like those are all people that everyone recognizes. Same with like Forsaken, they have like Caseman and Sixer and a couple of people that people recognize.
A lot of veterans.
So I guess like of all the drama and all the complaining, was there like really a team that got left out? Because it didn't seem like it.
No. That's my exact point that I took to on Twitter. I was like, y'all need to just chill out.
I mean, there's definitely some notable players from early access that were good that are not on a team in this Premier League, but I don't know how much of that is because they just don't play enough and didn't actually compete in very many tournaments, or if it's because they didn't want to be on a team and haven't formed one. Like, for instance, I know a couple of guys who are really good at Battalion had like other commitments, like Grego and BCJ. Like they were competing at X Games for Apex Legends and stuff. So like, by the way, really sad to see that what happened with Grego and that whole situation.
Yeah, Cloud9 in its entirety.
Yeah, that's whack. I don't. That seems really shit. Anyway, so heart goes out there, Grego. That's a really tough situation.
Right.
But yeah, like BCJ is obviously like on like T1 competing in Apex Legends. So of course, some of these players that were really good that do still play, they just can't really commit to being on like a team. Like why would they? They're getting like salary to play another game right now. Battalion's not there yet. So again, like there are some missing names, but some of them are for very legitimate reasons, like they're competing in other games or something right now. And so yeah, I'm not sure what that was all about, all that drama. I didn't really understand. Like I could understand like a team that had like a lot of good players on it got left out, then I'd be like, yeah, dude, that does suck. But it just seemed like a lot of the other players were either just playing on mixed teams whenever they did play, or they didn't play that much compared to others. And so it is what it is.
I mean, in the end, we still had a qualifier, right? So no one has a right to complain. Everyone had a chance.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Like if you would have placed well in a Blitzkrieg battle or a quick cup, then you probably would have gotten invited. And if you didn't, then at that point, you're just relying on your name value from early access alone, which I don't think would have been very fair. Like you could argue that a lot of these guys have name value for early access, but also most of these teams, yourself, Enix, Vatic, Sage, Sentinels, Check 6, all these guys played regularly. They all played multiple different online cups. So I think the drama was a little bit misguided. I didn't really get it.
Absolutely.
I do think, I was like, some of these teams that got invited, they haven't really done that well. But again, there wasn't that many teams. I think there maybe could have been more qualifier spots. It'll sort itself out down the line, though, if they have like a relegation system or something like that.
The first season of anything is always a mess.
Exactly.
Right? So like, it's fine. We're along for the ride. Ride it out. Do your best.
Yeah. Of course, that starts basically a few days after I released this video. There's a couple of matches that'll take place even before Fragadelphia. So that's already underway. I know some people will be like wondering if I'm casting it or not. I have no idea. So that's the answer to that question. I know I've dabbled in some of the quick cups and Blitzkrieg battle stuff just for fun. But for Premier League, originally Vince and I were going to do it together, but we haven't heard anything from the plays in a while, so we're not really sure what's going on with that. But I would like to be involved, and hopefully I will be at some point. But this is obviously the first, like, I guess, bigger thing going on for, there's a decent prize pool behind this. It's not like anything elaborate or crazy, but it's pretty solid for a starting point. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to follow this and see how it goes and see how it develops over time. And then the last point, besides like maybe a couple little rumor things, is Fragadelphia is coming up, obviously. I think it's a $6,000 prize pool so far. $3,600 for first place is how it is right now. There are currently, 16 teams competing in it?
To my knowledge, yeah. There's currently 16. There was 15. Somebody told me a 16th registered, so we'll see.
I only see 12 teams listed on the Wikipedia page, but again, we already talked about this. Doesn't get updated that much. I'm not really 100% sure. But basically, all the NA teams that you would pretty much want to be there are there. You know, Enix is going to be there. You're going to be there. Stage is going to be there. Sentinels are there. Vadic's there. Check 6 is there. That Rectify team is supposed to be there. Outliers is supposed to be there. Forsaken's supposed to be there. So a lot of the teams that are in Premier League are going to be there, except for maybe some of the teams that just recently qualified, maybe a couple of other teams that weren't able to make it. Obviously, it's always difficult when you aren't salaried, don't have organizational support to travel to events yet, and you might have a full-time job because, you know, I can understand why people, I can understand why certain teams can't make it to this event, but it's a pretty good turnout. Like, a lot of the top teams from NA are going to be there. There is one European mixed team that's going to be there as well, which is supposedly Lex, Aerox, Mark, Tobin, and Kazja.
I can tell you.
Apparently, they're even practicing together.
Lex has streamed it a couple times.
I even tried to get Aerox to fill in for Rebred. He's like, nah, man, I got to practice for Frag. And I'm like, all right, man. So apparently that's going to be interesting to see that European mixed team kind of come over. A couple of those guys have played together before. Like, obviously, Mark and Kazja were teammates on Endpoint not too long ago. I think Tobin and Aerox played together on Fierce or something like that. So these guys are pretty familiar with each other. It's a mixed team, but it's people who have played each other a lot. And then Lex, the random, North American that's thrown into the mix.
Of course.
This should be interesting. Obviously, the big thing that you'll always want to follow with Fragadelphia is, do online results translate? Are we going to see...
100%.
I mean, I think so. I hope that you guys will actually make top 4 instead of Blitzkrieg battles where that didn't happen. So,
we're not good enough, So that's what it comes down to. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I mean, the thing is, when you look at the teams that are here, most of these guys did do well at the last Fragadelphia. So you'd expect that they would do so again. A lot of the Enix guys and Sage guys were at the last Frag and placed within the top 4 or something. So you'd expect the same thing to happen. I'll be curious to see how good some of these other teams compete. How close are the scores? Do they actually cause an upset? Can, this RBL or Rectify or something like that, Forsaken, can they pull one over on a Sage or your team or an Enix or something? That'd obviously be interesting to follow to see how good they really are. And it'll finally kind of really establish the pecking order, because right now, if you wanted to do a power rankings for North America, most people would probably have Enix at number 1. And then after that, it would be a mix between Sedated, Sage, Sentinels, Vadic, and maybe Check 6 or something like that. So this will really kind of determine who is the top dog in NA going into this Premier League season and going into future stuff. I feel like this is going to be this is where the story begins, I think, for
absolutely.
At least for the North American side. There's no European land yet, but I think this is where we will really truly see where the pecking order lies in North America for Premier League and stuff like that, and for future events. So obviously I'm not going to be there. I wanted to be there to cast, but it didn't work out. I got some other stuff going on, so it's probably for the best I didn't go anyway. But I'll definitely be tuning in and checking it out. Are you guys excited to go? Have you guys been prepping hard? What's kind of your thoughts?
I mean, every day's been anywhere from 4 to 6 hour practice, it feels like, with, like we mentioned before, theory crafting and then scrims on top of that. So even finding time to stream for me has been difficult, but yeah, man, I'm putting in work. Obviously everyone hopes for the best possible turnout, but we'll see. I mean, it's our first LAN with this set 5, and then I mean, everyone's LAN before, to my knowledge, whether it be in this game or another one. So we'll see. I mean, our core 4, and then our 5th being Shane that we picked up. Our core 4 have, they placed either 1st or 2nd at the last Fragadelphia. So
it is kind of funny. Your team is basically the 2 teams blended together that made the finals of the last Fragadelphia, right? It was you and
Pride.
Yeah, Pride from, God, what did you call yourselves at that event?
Team Magic.
That's right. It was Team Magic.
Knockoff Mythic.
Yeah. And then obviously Seth and Wilski coming from Vireo Pro, I think they were at that event.
Correct.
So yeah, that is gonna be cool to see. Then obviously Enix guys, a lot of those guys came from Primal, which was a pretty solid team for the last Fragadelphia, and even made it to the last major. Again, there's a lot of veterans over on Sentinels. Some of those guys made it to the major as well. I think it was Wrenches and Neo were on that original Sentinels lineup that made the major, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously Hero, who had played on some solid. He played with you at Frag that won, right? He's on Vadic team.
Name saved us.
Yeah, the hero nade. So there's a lot of veterans on Check 6 and stuff as well. So it should be a fun event. Definitely gonna follow it up and have a good time there. But that's really it for like confirmed stuff. There's been like a lot of rumors floating around about other stuff that's going on. They obviously announced that they want to do a major next year that has a 6-figure prize pool. They obviously also talk about doing like minors, which would be like decent prize pool tournaments that would either be like in London or in LA because that's where like Faceit's office is. There's been talk of like them doing like a Faceit Pro series similar to what they did for Apex Legends, where it's like a pretty decent prize pool tournament that again might be out of the LA studio from Faceit. So there's definitely a lot of discussion going on. I mean, it's not even really a strange rumor to hear that Faceit would throw something for the game. I mean, they're built into the game and they are a tournament organizer. So obviously Faceit will eventually do something for Battalion, whether it be a league or a LAN or a tournament, one-off, remotely broadcast, whatever the case may be. Faceit will eventually do something for this game, and that's just kind of a no-brainer. If you haven't figured that out yet, then I don't know. If you just haven't read, if you haven't seen the Faceit logo in the game when you click play, then I mean I don't know what to tell you. So obviously they're going to do something, and I mean yeah, I've definitely heard a couple of rumors here and there. I don't know what's verified and what's not, but hopefully exciting times ahead for the competitive side of things.
I hope so. That's all we have. That's all we have.
To draw back to Fragadelphia really quick, like what are you expecting? Like how do you think things are going to shake down here? And obviously you think you're going to win or you want to win.
All teams?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, obviously you want Sega to be number one at the end of the day. So, right. I mean, we don't have to talk about that, but like who do you think is going to be your biggest competition? How do you think things are going to shake down?
Oh, honestly, we haven't even looked into it. 100% honest with you. It's one of those things where you're so focused on your own gameplay that all you want to do, especially the thing I keep telling my guys is that, hey, as long as we play our game and we don't play someone else's game, we'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of that's been the mentality going into it, is that we are just perfecting our craft so that ultimately we don't have to worry about another team. It doesn't matter what strats they have or who they bring or whatever may seem like that we just want to focus on doing everything as we trained correctly when that time comes. So that's kind of like a since I'm IGLing and kind of like running the scrims and the trainings and things like that, it's kind of like a military background. That's all it really is when it comes from.
I mean, it's hard to scout opponents right now anyway, because like the demo really system's not really that great. You'd have to just rely on VODs. Yeah, exactly.
So like,
do you really understand? Like even going to like a map pick ban, there's no records of past pick bans, so you wouldn't really even know what people normally ban and pick. So like, it's definitely really you kind of have to focus on your own game because there's really no other way to do it right now, effectively at least. I mean, I guess you could watch VODs, I guess. Maybe if you record demos of your scrims, you could look over those, but like it's really hard to do much else at this point than like just work on shit together as a team and go in with a game plan and a style. And I mean, I'm sure you kind of at least kind of know what roles people play on other teams and kind of what they like to do, but all in all, there's mind games that go on. There's all kinds of stuff like that. But is there a team that you think will surprise? Like, is there a dark horse team at this event that you think will?
I kind of want that to happen with Rectify personally, just because all the shit they got on Twitter about that whole situation. I want them to show up and just smack people around, just because I'll be sitting back there in the back of the room with my binoculars, just staring at people and laughing. But that's kind of what I hope to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, obviously everyone expects your team to hopefully do well. Enix is expected to do well. Sage, Sentinels, maybe Vatic. There's definitely some teams out there that have some good players. I mean, even Outliers were able to pull off like a Blitzkrieg Battle week and make it into the finals there. So obviously you have to expect that maybe they can translate some of that. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know some of these players. I mean, here's the thing. Like, here's obviously the mean that we have to discuss, right? Like, how well will this European mixed team do? Like, do you think that it's like it would be embarrassing if they won? I mean, surely they shouldn't win. Like, surely one of the top NA teams has to beat them. I mean, this team, if we truly think we have enough good formed NA teams, then they shouldn't even place top 4, theoretically. Like, if Enix, Sage, Sedated, Sentinels, some of these other teams come through, in theory, unless, like, this will prove a lot. This will prove, like, how much does a stable roster matter versus just, like, a team of, like, fraggers, or, like, how far ahead is Europe to NA as far as just, like, how they work together. Because again, it is a mixed team, but Arex and Tobin play together for a long time, and Mark and Kaja play together a lot. So it's not like it's just 5 randoms together. Like it's like 2 duos and Lex basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not going to be like, and they're practicing. They're actually working on shit together. So they're not coming in purely freestyling. Like they're going to have some stuff, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how they throw a wrench in things. They better not win, bro. If they win, you'll never hear the end of it.
I mean, if they win, they win. You know what I'm saying? That's
of course.
The way I would look at it. But I don't think anyone's too worried. They're obviously skillful.
Sure.
You know, but I think our plan is to take them out the night before, and hopefully they get food poisoning. So we'll go that route.
Oh man.
And you know, we have tactics. You know, maybe break a couple fingers. We don't know. So we'll see how it ends.
Oh man, that's gonna be good. But yeah, I'm hoping to see everyone, you know, play well. Like I never like to pick favorites and stuff like that. Like I think people get like the wrong idea that like I'm a sedated fanboy because I have you on the show. And stuff like that, which obviously I'm friendly with you guys and I play games with you guys, but I'm friends with like Fox Rocks on Sage. I mean, I've pretty good friends with the Enix guys. I know some of the Sentinels guys as well. I pretty much know at least one or two people. I mean, we got Doggo Kaz over on Check 6, you know what I mean? So like the Mr. Kaz himself. So there's a lot of cool people that are going to be there. I think overall, at the end of the day, at least it'll be a fun event for all of you guys. Hopefully it like runs smoothly. There's no issues. And you guys have a good time, and that's that. Other than that, obviously you stream a lot. How's that going? How's streaming going?
I haven't had time, and it's terrible because occasionally when I do get time, I've been setting up everything with my university. I've been working on top of that and just doing a mess of other things on top of practice, you know. And even then, when you do stream, you stream for 6 hours minimum, and then you play Battalion for 4 to 5 hours. You know, it's anywhere from on an average of 10 hours of Battalion a day throughout the week. It's terrible. For lack of a better
maybe you'll hit level 100 after all if you keep it
right.
up, man.
That's what I'm saying. But the stream's going well, all things considered. Though there's a lot of people out there that are supporting me, and even though the Battalion community is so small, you know, it's really awesome to see.
There you go.
Sure.
So yeah, definitely go hit Tanaka up on Twitch, Tanaka TV. When he is streaming, definitely should hang it out. Any final thoughts, comments? I think we pretty much covered everything I wanted to. Obviously, we'll do another episode maybe in a few weeks and talk about Fragadelphia, like, you know, post-event. Maybe talk a little bit about Premier League once we actually have some results in front of us. Hopefully we'll have Rebirth or someone else back, so we have, you know, the 3-man show again. But that's pretty much all I had, so I didn't know if you had any final thoughts, shout-outs, comments, anything like that you wanted to throw out there before we close the show.
Not at all. If you guys are planning on attending Fragadelphia, whether you be Euro, American, whatever it may be, you know, we even consider Canadians sometimes, record it, you know, get real world footage of it, you know, because it is the content. First 1.0 land. Yeah, it's content, right? Everyone's going to want to watch this for years to come. We still watch COD 1 videos of CPL and things like that. So record it, you know, be a part of it. And ultimately, if you're not coming, support it online, you know.
Yeah, tune the stream.
That's what matters. And as far as that goes, as long as you enjoy playing the game, watching the game, whatever it may be, the community will thrive, you know. Be good to others. That's it.
There we go. So that's going to be it for this episode of In the Trenches. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.